Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ali Mohammed, and I will be presenting to you today about the applications of mathematics and statistics in science and business. I hold a Bachelor's of Science degree in Actuarial Science at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, and a Master's in Statistics at the University of Nottingham. So I am representing Mohammed's Elite Math Tutoring. So this is a tutoring and mathematics publishing uh, framework, which I have established, and I'm partnering with Preysal Secondary School in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm hoping that you all enjoy the presentation and that we have a mutually beneficial experience. Before I start the presentation, I'm going to give an overview. So firstly, I'll be giving an introduction of Mohammed's Elite Math Tutoring. Secondly, the importance of mathematics and statistics. And thirdly, I will be covering the application of mathematics and statistics in the following fields. So I've outlined 6 fields in which I will discuss how mathematics and statistics will be applied. These fields include biology, chemistry, physics, management science, business analytics, and machine learning. So there are many other fields that apply mathematics and statistics, but I thought these would be 6 very important ones, especially since I know many students will be pursuing different subject areas in these subjects or will be using these areas in their professional environment and workplaces as they graduate. So an introduction about Mohammed Ali Math Tutoring. So this is a tutoring and mathematical education platform. As mentioned before, I have a bachelor's degree in actuarial science and a master's degree in statistics from University of Nottingham. And I've published several study guides for the Caribbean-based CXC examinations, which I know you all will be familiar with. And I've covered 2 books thus far, and these have been published. Firstly, it's a CSEC additional mathematics, and secondly, keep applied mathematics. So in time, we will see more books being published, and you'll will see it on my social media pages. So I will show you that as we progress further and further along the slides, you will see my social media, and you will see further updates about books, further updates about how I apply math and stats in not just teaching, but in terms of publishing, in terms of showing how it's applied in the real world, so that students can really appreciate how it's applied and can really find a passion as they go into their professional workplaces. Okay, so the importance of math and stats. So why is math and stats important? Is it just to know how to count your money when you do a business? Is it that you want to know your profits and loss, those kind of things? Well, it's so much more, because in Trinidad and Tobago, mathematics is not just numbers. It's the language that really unlocks the secrets of our natural world. Statistics, on the other hand, though very closely related, and sometimes there are interrelationships between these, statistics actually forms the backbone of decision-making in industries. So math and stats is applied in so many fields, from energy to finance to economics to all the other fields that I mentioned before, and so many more. So mathematics and statistics, these areas act as a bridge, and it connects logic and numbers and trends and data, all of these things into the real world. So at the beginning of the presentation, I said that I will be discussing how math and stats is applied in different fields. So firstly, let us discuss how mathematics and statistics is applied in biology. 3 of the important uses of mathematics and statistics in biology are firstly, genetic analysis, secondly, epidemiology and biostatistics, and thirdly, population dynamic models. So I know that you all would have been perhaps doing CSEC biology, or you would have been doing maybe some sort of integrated sciences, or some sort of HSB, which is at this point human and social biology. So you would have been encountering these things at some point. You would have seen on the television about COVID, which happened in 2020, you saw that there were all of these trends, all of these graphs you saw about how COVID was being spread. And we see in other cases, we see like if you look at different countries, there's the discussion about perhaps overpopulation, underpopulation in certain countries. In the cases of certain species of animals, we even see how genetic analysis applies, where you really explore certain genetic factors in species of animals and see how this relates over time. And it helps us predict different trends about the existence of species over a long period of time. It also helps us determine maybe certain health factors that species may be accustomed to or get or become acquainted with as time progresses. So in terms of genetic analysis, let's relate all of this to Trinidad and Tobago. So we know that Trinidad and Tobago has a very large biodiversity. So it makes it very important for us to understand how genetic analysis is applied in the context of mathematics and statistics to understand how certain inheritance patterns, how it affects our flora and fauna. So we can use mathematics and statistics to trace certain ancestry of individuals or even certain flora and fauna as well. Secondly, in terms of epidemiology and biostatistics, so epidemiology is really crucial for understanding how diseases, infections are spread, especially during a global health crisis. So we saw, as I mentioned before, how COVID-19 was spread, and we used certain models. So for instance, there's the SEIR model, which is the susceptible, exposed, infected, and recovered model. And this can be used to predict or model the spread of infectious diseases. It actually was used to model COVID-19 and the spread of COVID-19 in many different countries. And in terms of population dynamic models, so we use this to and really to determine how well our biodiversity maintains a sustainable process. In terms of, we could use it to determine how to preserve our delicate ecosystems. Next, let's discuss how mathematics and statistics is applied in chemistry. In this area, I've outlined three different areas in which mathematics and statistics is applied. Firstly, chemical kinetics. Secondly, spectroscopy. And thirdly, stoichiometry. So, firstly, chemical industries in Trinidad and Tobago, we rely heavily on mathematical models to optimize reaction rates and minimize waste. So when you would have been doing CSEC, you would have seen maybe rates of reactions and those sort of things. And we actually, as we go more and more into the industry, you'd realize that certain differential equations, certain mathematical rules, certain formulae could be used to model these reaction rates. The second thing we can use is spectroscopy. So spectroscopy techniques, we use this in analyzing the composition of our natural resources. So for instance, we could use it within our oil reserves. We could use it in terms of our agricultural products. And we could use this to really analyze the composition of our natural resources. And lastly, stoichiometry. So for instance, when you did CSEC chemistry, you would have encountered, balance in the equation. And sometimes it's, you may have tried a trial and error approach. You may have figured out a certain technique to use. But there are actually certain techniques which we can use to balance certain chemical equations. So using these techniques, we can develop industries, develop processes, such as in our food processing industry, or even monitoring our quality and safety standards in certain industries. Next, let's talk about how physics has application of mathematics and statistics in it. Okay, so there are three particular uses of mathematics and statistics in physics. These three are outlined to be, firstly, mechanics, secondly, thermodynamics, and thirdly, quantum physics. So if you would have encountered math or do a little bit of add math, you would have seen calculus, which is sometimes a dreaded topic at the CSEC level. And it really outlines mechanics really outlines how certain forces impact the motion of objects, and calculus can help us understand how certain objects move. Next, let's discuss thermodynamics. So, Trinidad and Tobago, our sector, we benefit from thermodynamics, where we could use statistical mechanics to predict the behavior of complex systems like our natural gas reserves, and we could use it for many other sectors. The last one is quantum physics. So we can explore the application in quantum computing for many different cases, and it's still a developing area in Trinidad and Tobago, but with time, I believe that we can develop it even further into our mainstream professional settings. Next, let's discuss management science and how mathematics and statistics is applied in management science. So there are three different areas which I've outlined as areas in which mathematics and statistics is applied in management science. Firstly, operation research. Secondly, forecasting. And thirdly, decision analysis. So in terms of operations research, this is important for optimizing our transportation system, reduce traffic congestion, and improving our public services. So for instance, as you all know, if you were traveling from, let's say, the southern part of Trinidad to the capital city, Port of Spain, you may have a lot of traffic at certain times in the day. And we can use certain optimization models and resource allocations to, in a sense, minimize traffic congestion on the roads. And there are certain algorithms and certain procedures we can use which involve mathematics and statistics to make this process a bit more efficient. Secondly, in terms of forecasting, so there's a certain topic in statistics called time series analysis. So this allows us to help us determine the trend of certain sales or quantity of goods produced across time, depending on the different industries. So we can use this sort of analysis to give us future trends or perhaps extrapolate for current trends as well. So this is what time series analysis allows us to do. And lastly, decision analysis. So as you know, in our budget, we have a certain amount of finances allocated to many different tasks or many different initiatives, many different policies we want to address in our country. Now, because our budget is limited, we would have to make choices. We'll have to choose how best could we meet the needs of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago if we were the governing body of Trinidad and Tobago. So in this way, we have to take some sort of decision and we have to analyze what is the best decision or what are the best decisions to make in order to, as best as possible, meet the needs of everyone in the country, meet the all of the desires of persons. And decision analysis uses probability models, it uses mathematics, statistics, and all of those things to assist in making informed choices. So for persons that are interested in becoming the next prime minister and interested in politics and interested even, let's say you want to become a manager or a supervisor in a company or have some role of leadership in whichever realm, perhaps you can consider how you can use certain probability model, a certain statistical model, a certain mathematical model, using decision analysis in order to make a decision about how you would allocate your certain resources in order to achieve the objectives of your company or organization or the people that you're working for or on behalf of. Next, we almost done. So we will be talking about how business analytics uses mathematics and statistics. So why do we go to school? Many times we go to school to learn, yes. But also we want to get a job, we want to get money, we want to be able to afford certain things. Maybe it may be a nice car or a nice house, or maybe it's a certain brand name product. Maybe it's just going to travel to another country, all of these things. And when you have a business, you really want to not just guess your profits. You don't want to just guess what's your expenditures. You really want to have records of everything. You want to have certain quantifiable and objective measures that tell you if you are performing well, if your company is performing well, whether certain activities that you are doing, whether that's profitable for you or profitable or not even profitable at all. Maybe you're making losses by certain decisions you're making. So we could use certain types of analytic techniques in business, such as, firstly, descriptive analytics, secondly, predictive analytics, and thirdly, prescriptive analytics. So in terms of descriptive analytics, we could use statistical measures to summarize business data. This can involve using data to analyze consumer behavior. And in this way, we can adjust how we have our services and products being allocated in the case of if we were a governing body. In the case of predictive analytics, so Trinidad and Tobago, we are heavily tourism based in terms of how we earn our finances. So we can use predictive analytics to determine our visitors numbers, so number of persons who are interested in visiting our country. So for instance, in events like Carnival, those kind of things. And then from there, knowing that this number of persons that are willing to come to our country, then we can actually, plan our resources, plan our budget to factor these considerations to get as much revenue from our tourism as possible. And lastly, prescriptive analytics. So in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, we saw that not too long ago, we heavily relied on oil and gas, and we still do to some extent. And what we really want to do now is we're seeing this shift to go to renewable energy sources. And we can use certain prescriptive analytics to optimize our processing processes to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases and our carbon footprint and all of those things. Our last major use of mathematics and statistics is in the application of machine learning. So this is a very popular field that's recently even becoming more popular. So if you go on, have you ever went on Facebook or Instagram or one of the social media, and you're talking to your friend about something, you searching up, maybe you search up, let's say, a certain movie star or a certain television show, or maybe just certain types of foods. And then you see that it's like you go on another social media that's similar and you realize all of the stuff you were searching before on Google, it's like it's popping up there. And you're thinking, how did that happen? Is Facebook reading my mind, or is this social media just have psychic abilities? But what's really happening is that there are certain techniques and certain statistics and certain procedures that we can use using math and stats to really predict what consumers or what social media users use. And that's not just for social media. There's so many other uses, but we use social media so often, and we don't usually sit to think, is this really reading our mind? Or maybe we realize it, but we just say, well, I guess there's nothing we can do about it. It's probably good. We find everything that we want. Well, that's good. So there are three major uses of mathematics and statistics in machine learning. Firstly, we can do supervised learning. So that's regression and classification algorithms. So that's, for instance, if you want to see how two quantities are related to each other. So for instance, a basic example is, uh, let's say the amount of calories you eat and let's say your weight in um your mass in kilograms, perhaps you can see how that's related. So that's like your regression analysis. And secondly, your unsupervised learning, so clustering and dimensionality reduction techniques. So I know these terms seem really complex, but what this does is that it sort of groups certain features of interest together that we are interested in, and in sort of groups or what we call clusters, and it does analysis based on these groups or clusters. And lastly, we can use what we call reinforcement learning, which is decision making in dynamic environments. So, for instance, when we see that we have an increase in renewable energy, this technique plays a really good role in optimizing our power generation, our distribution systems. In addition, I know I spoke about unsupervised learning and I just introduced, I probably made it a bit more confusing. You heard clustering, I talk about grouping things based on clusters and all these things. But what's use of unsupervised learning? So in Trinidad and Tobago, we can use this technique to identify certain patterns in crime data. So it can assist persons in law enforcement, and they can use this data to allocate their resources more efficiently. So for instance, if there are certain areas or maybe a certain type of crime, the police body or protective services can really allocate their finances or their policemen and women in these certain areas or target these certain tasks in order to address the issue of crime and other related issues. So overall, this is the end of my presentation. What did we discuss? We discussed, well, firstly, an overview of Muhammad Ali math tutoring. Secondly, the importance of statistics. And lastly, the outline of the application of mathematics and statistics in the fields of biology, chemistry, physics, management science, business analytics, and machine learning. So that's it for the presentation. If you will have any questions, feel free to ask.